So all in all, 170 pounds right now appears to be a little bit of a mess. And it's a mess, but the message should be for the guys in the division. What incredible opportunity. And I don't know that it's just a lesson for 170 pounders. I think everybody can observe what's going on and see that there's opportunity. Look, let me back up. So many times in my life, I have been asked, how do I get into the UFC? How do I get into Bellator? And I've answered the question for anybody that's asked me. But anytime I answer the question, I'm giving suggestions. I'm giving guesses. Start in some regional shows. Start getting your name out there. Start working on your record. Go to the gym every day. Get noticed. Make a contact. Build your way. I mean, I'm giving guesses, and they're all very good, and they're all kind of the similar stories that everybody else has had. But it's not the same as how do I get into the NFL? I could tell you exactly how to get into how do I win the Super Bowl? I could tell you exactly how to win the Super Bowl. Right? From going to college to getting drafted to joining a team to making the playoffs to having more points than the other guys when time runs out, do that a few times, advance to the finals, win that game, boom, you're the Super Bowl champion. I can tell you from a competitive architecture standpoint how to get that done. You ask me, how do I become a school teacher? I could walk you through the process of getting your degree, sticking around, getting your teaching certificate. I could walk you through the process. I think you understand what I'm saying. In MMA, it is different, though, and I just have to give you guesses. I could point you in the right direction. I could tell you commonly what is done. When you look at 170 pounds, it is a small microcosm of a much bigger picture here, which is that opportunity comes knocking very fast in this sport. Very, very quickly. I will tell you, to tie this into myself, when I got into the UFC, it was very simply, I was a big fan, and I followed it online. And one day, and it was like a week before a fight or something short notice, Babalu was supposed to have an opponent, and that opponent pulled out. Babalu was without an opponent. That's it. I saw that, and I thought, nobody's going to want to fight Babalu. Scary guy. Babalu's a rough son of a gun. Nobody's going to want to fight him on a week's notice. He's a main card. He's been advertised. I'm your guy. I sent an email to Joe Silva. We had never met. I got his email. I sent him an email. I'll fight Babalu next week. Joe Silva said, you were in the UFC. Sent over contract. That was how it happened. But many other things in my own career, to tie it into me, had happened from just raising your hand and saying, I'll do it. And I think as you look at 170 pounds, there is something very special there to guys who are ready, right? I mean, we just saw it a week ago when Colby and Kamara falls apart. Traditionally speaking, Kamara would have stayed on that card. Traditionally speaking, and somebody else would have been put in there. Who's that? Would have been Masvidal? Maybe. Masvidal ready? Would have been Tyron Woodley? Maybe. Is Tyron ready? It's going to be Leon Edwards? Maybe. Is Leon ready? I mean, you guys see though? And there's a major benefit and a major opportunity to just being ready. If you are a professional and this is what you want to do, you should always be within striking distance of your weight class. You should always be at the gym. If you're buying into a false narrative about a training camp, which means you're sitting on your ass the rest of the time, you're not putting yourself in a position to be successful. You're not putting yourself in a position to have an opportunity. And I just think as much as, because there can also be a bit of a morale bust in the back when titles are held up. You guys may remember, to tie this into Conor McGregor, you remember when he was the champion of the world and he left the sport for an entire year to go over and box Floyd. Well, imagine if you're in the back, oh man, what do I do? I want to be world champion. I have no chance to be a world champion. As a matter of fact, the world champion in our sport isn't even in the sport right now. He went and got licensed to do something like that. You see where that would be a very real thing. But you also see that if you're trying to promote the Conor versus Floyd fight, while not stripping him, is beneficial and letting him go out there champion. So you can see where there's some push and pull, but it also just creates an opportunity. And I will tell you, I've talked to Sean Shelby about this. I've talked to Joe Silva about this many times. Many times. What's the best way to get in the UFC? And they both say it's the same answer. And they'll say, you know what? Be ready. If you have a guy who's ready, particularly geographically speaking, if we're coming to your area, we're going to want guys from that area on the card. Everybody in that area with a hope or a dream should be prepared, should be within weight, should have a license so that they can step in. I'm expanding on their thought a little bit. I'm expanding this, but it's very real. And then once you get in, it stays even more real, except the opportunities are bigger. Instead of just trying to get a contract in one of the major organizations, you're now looking to get main card fights in major organizations. You're looking to get main event fights. You could be getting title fights just by being ready. I can remember where I was when Dana White calls me and wants to know if I can come to Vegas in a week and fight John Jones. And you're talking about a world title fight. And don't forget, at that point in my life, I had never been at the weight class before, and I just was coming off a loss. I'm the last guy that should be getting a call for a world title fight, in fairness. There was nobody else that raised their hand. I said to Dana, I said, am I the first guy you're calling? And he laughed and said, no. And he told me what number I was. I want to say he said 8. No, you're the 8th guy. Something along these lines. But everybody else said no. Nobody else wanted to do it. And that's stunning to me. That's stunning. And some guys just weren't ready. They weren't prepared. John was too hard. They were scared. Whatever the reason was. But it was stunning to me that a professional was not within striking distance of making weight, did not have his medicals together to get licensed on a moment's notice, and wasn't in shape. What kind of a professional is that? It just seems to me that it's very bizarre. And I think if there's any lesson that you can learn from 170 pounds, that no matter how low you are on the totem pole, things change fast. Opportunity comes quickly. You can't make those things happen. You can't make somebody call you and offer you a spot. But you can make sure that you put yourself in a position to be able to say yes, to be able to accept those opportunities. I could tell you countless times, absolutely countless, where somebody is a number one contender, not just one of the guys, not just doing a good job, the number one contender. And they turned it down a title fight, whether they just didn't like the date or, whatever the excuse could be, thinking it will come again. Guys will sit out. I'm going to sit. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for my opportunity. Somebody else comes in. Somebody else captures the imagination, gets the mandate of the masses, gets the media behind him, and gets the spot. Countless times where somebody will lose that opportunity just because they're not in a position to say yes. But it's very interesting that when you're trying to get into the organization, you are always ready. Your phone could ring anytime. Boom, yes, I'll do it. Absolutely, I'm in. Where do I sign? But then once you're in and those same calls come, but there's so much more on the line, dreams on the line. And people pass. The message here is just to understand what just happened at 170 pounds. What happened at 170 will happen at 155, has happened at 185, will happen at 205, will happen at heavy. It will happen absolutely everywhere. Cars fall apart. Somebody needs to step in. Who's licensed? Who's in shape? Who's ready? Who's in striking distance? Who can make weight? Who's going to say yes?